The gym was even more crowded when they walked back in, and Danny could see that many of the teams that would play in the 2 o'clock games were already warming up. "Straight ahead to get to your court," said a security guard in a yellow jacket. They walked to court 2 and found the rest of the rebels warming up at the far end. "Danny, Terrell, about time," called out a massive kid wearing the same kind of gray jersey. He waved at them as they approached. Alan Owens was by far the biggest of the rebels. He was 6'10" and claimed to weigh 260 pounds, but Danny was convinced he weighed at least 280. He was grinning as they walked up, and the other players on the team, whom Danny and Terrell didn't really know very well, came over to say hello. He remembered Jason Marks as being really fast in their few pre-camp practices. Mike Roth was another point guard who he hoped, was not as good as he was, and Ken Medley had a sweet shot. "Coach Wilcox wants us to meet with him for a couple minutes," Danny said as handshakes were exchanged. His dad was standing behind the basket talking to Frank Sullivan. "You mean your dad wants to meet with us," said Jay Swanson, a 6'4" shooting guard who happened to be the only other white kid on the team. He had made it clear to Danny during the tryouts for the team that he resented the fact that Danny pretty much had the team made regardless of how he played. At least that was Swanson's view. "Same guy," Danny said, figuring there'd be plenty of time later to let Swanson know he thought he was an idiot. He gestured at his dad, who was waving them all over. "Fellas, I want you all to meet Frank Sullivan," Coach Wilcox said as they formed a semicircle around him. "He's been a coach at Harvard, and he scouted at this camp and many others. Frank knows all those coaches you're trying to impress and what they look for. So listen up, because he can help you." They all turned to Sullivan, who smiled and said, "I know Harvard won't impress most of you guys, but I do have a pretty good idea what every coach in this camp is looking for. First, more than anything, team players. Everyone knows all you guys can dunk with one hand." Danny almost laughed out loud at that one. He could dunk with one hand, standing on a ladder. Sullivan seemed to read his mind, because he shot him a quick smile before continuing. "Most guys come to this camp thinking, I'm going to show these coaches what I can do. If they're looking at you, they already know what you can do as an athlete. They want to see what you can do as a basketball player. There's a difference. A basketball player helps on defense, finds the open man, and sets good hard screens to get other guys open. An athlete goes 1-on-3 and makes a spectacular play, but then turns it over the next 3 times he tries the same move. He hears the applause for the spectacular play, but believe me, the coaches see the turnovers." He paused, started to say something else, and then looked around the semicircle. He was losing his audience. Some of the players were staring at the floor, and others were glancing around the gym. The one person who had his eyes locked on him was Terrell Jamerson. "Okay, guys, enough from the old coach's textbook. Have fun out there," Coach Sullivan said, wrapping up. When he was finished, Danny's dad told them to go get warmed up. As soon as they got into layup lines, Jay Swanson grabbed one of the balls being fed to them by the little kids who were acting as ball boys, took 2 dribbles, and dunked with one hand. "Tell your father's pal that coaches do notice a 6'4" white kid who can dunk with one hand," he said, as he ran past Danny. Already Danny knew one thing. Being Jay Swanson's teammate for the next week wasn't going to be much fun. The team they were playing was supposedly from Southern California, but they had apparently recruited a couple of ringers from Las Vegas, and their best player was Omar Whitelaw from Chicago. When Terrell had noticed Whitelaw's name on the Crush's roster, he'd asked Coach Wilcox about it. "Highest bidder, I guess," he said. "I'm new to this, Terrell, but a lot of the best guys you'll face are playing for pay already." "Don't they worry about the NCAA catching them?" Terrell had asked. Coach Wilcox shook his head. "I'd be worried, but there are plenty of people who'll tell you different." Whitelaw was similar to Terrell, perhaps an inch shorter, but with a reputation as a better shooter. While Terrell had yet to talk publicly about any college he might be interested in playing for, Whitelaw had already announced 5 finalists in what one of the ESPN recruiting gurus had dubbed the War for Whitelaw. They were, as you might expect, powerhouses: Kentucky, North Carolina, UCLA, Florida, and the one surprised, East Texas, a school best known until recently for having a great fencing team. As the teams walked out for the tip-off, Danny noticed that